Hi, this is Joel Cunningham again from the Barnes & Noble Science Fiction and Fantasy blog. I'm here at San Diego Comic-Con talking with Brandon Sanderson, author of the Mistborn books, Wheel of Time, and the Stormlight Archive. So welcome to Comic-Con.
Thank you very much.
So you've got, in the next couple months, not just one book coming out, but two coming out.
Yes. So there's a story here. This is me trying to get ahead. Ever since I started working on the Wheel of Time, I felt perpetually behind. In the old days, I would turn in my books 2 years ahead, and we'd have 2 years to edit them and get them to come out, right? Well, as soon as my writing took off, the publisher stopped sitting on my books for 2 years, and they started publishing them within months of me turning them. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to write two this time. I'm not going to tell them when I finish the first. I'm just going to go right into the sequel. I'll get 2 books, and I'll have 2 years worth of books then. I'll turn them in, and I'll have all this time, and I'll be able to get ahead. And they're like, great, 2 books. We'll publish one in October, one in January. I'm like, it made even more work. I got even more behind, because now I'm having to juggle 2 books revisions while I'm working on the next Stormlight book at the same time.
So this might be internet rumor, but I heard that you accidentally wrote a trilogy with this too.
Yeah,
right?
it's not as accidental. I like to joke about things like that. Okay. The first book, Alloy of Law. So when I pitched Mistborn to my editor, I pitched it as a sequence of 3 trilogies: past, present, future. Epic fantasy, contemporary, where the epic fantasy become the source of mythology and religion in a contemporary sort of urban setting, and then a science fiction, where the magic had become the means by which people achieve space travel. Really cool idea for 9 books. As I finished the trilogy and started working on the Stormlight Archive, I realized I didn't want to leave Mistborn alone for as long as it was going to take me to get back to the second one, the second trilogy. So I wrote Alloy of Law, which is kind of an interim step. It's in between. It's kind of 1910s technology, so the age of electricity coming in and industry and all this stuff. It's a very fun period in history, and I was able to do a kind of fantasy version of that in this world that I'd written. I really enjoyed it, but that book was kind of accidental. It was just like, what if? Once I wrote that, I had a vision then for, all right, this is how this is going to go. When I sat down, I plotted a new trilogy using all the same ways that I plot a trilogy, and Shadows of Self, Bands of Mourning, and the forthcoming Lost Metal is what I'm calling it, form a trilogy about these characters that were introduced in Alloy of Law. So these 3 will feel a little more cohesive than the first one did, as it was more of an experiment.
And then, do you think you're going to be able to move on to the next?
Yeah, the contemporary one. I will get to that. Definitely, I probably will finish the first 5 Stormlight first, but then we'll do it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's like 1980s Cold War era sort of technology, with allomancy and magic and all of this stuff from the world. It's going to be fun.
And then going back a couple years, you had the Wheel of Time experience.
I did.
You wrapped that up admirably, and now you're at a point where your own books have gotten to the point where you're number 1 debut on the New York Times. Is this, I mean, did you have sort of a vision of your career, and you thought, how this would plan out this way?
You know, I never got beyond getting published, right? I wrote 13 books before I sold one, and everything was focused on if I can just make a living. It doesn't have to be a good living. If I can make like 25 grand a year and then live in the podunk middle of nowhere and survive on my writing, that was my goal. That's number 1, and everything else is honestly kind of gravy. Now, I'm not saying I don't like being a number 1. I love being able to come to Comic-Con, and there's people around who recognize me and stuff like this. It's really cool. It's very fulfilling. But that step, the step between getting published and being, making a living, that's the thing that I really feel grateful for. And everything else, I couldn't have planned for it. I couldn't have hoped for it. Like the Wheel of Time, there's no way, it's just like, wow.
A confluence of freak incidents.
The only deliberate thing I did in my career was when I finished my first book, I didn't write a sequel to it, because I knew that in my writing process I needed to be doing different things, and I needed to, if I was going to build a fan base, I wanted that fan base to be used to the idea that when Brandon finishes a book, the next thing is generally something different. And I will get through my series, but you're not going to get, book 1, 2, 3, 4 in a series right in a row. You're going to get book 1, then book 1, then book 2, then book 1, and then, stuff like that.
Well, that's great, and you've certainly done it this year with Shadows of Self coming out
Yep,
in
Shadows
October.
of Self.
Bands of Mourning in January.
Yep, and we had Firefight just recently.
That's
so
great.
Mm-hmm.
You've had a busy 2015. And
I have.
Keep on going. So you can order all these books at Barnes & Noble and keep watching the blog to see more from San Diego Comic-Con. Thanks a lot for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.